Hello, everybody, and welcome to Sonic Talk, episode 465. A little bit later than usual. Well, not that much later than usual. We're often a little bit tardy, but had a big technical meltdown and I had to reboot everything, so it was a bit of a rush to get here. So for those of you who are watching that, I hope it was of some amusement to you of my panics. But then, nonetheless, you're probably wondering what I'm whittering on about. We are Sonic Talk, the podcast to do with music production, music technology, performing live with electronics, software, acoustics, whatever you like. Anything to do with music production, or whether it be recording or live or in the studio, any of those things, that's what we're here to talk about. So if you like the sound of that, or you still like it after you've been listening to us for a while, please do subscribe. YouTube subscribe button should be around here somewhere, and it's always welcome. And we are heading to the 100,000 subscribers, and I'd really like to get that one, because I think you get a little gold button, and I can just see a place for it on the wall there somewhere, but we'll see. Anyway, I want to say thank you to our sponsors, Isotope. Excuse me. We'll be hearing from them a little bit later on in the show. They're giving away a copy of Vocal Synth, of all things, and we'll also be announcing the winner from last week, where you had the chance to win a copy of Vocal Synth. We got another winner this week. So let's say hello to all our guests. I'm going to start over here with Mr. Ty Unwin, who is back in full HD. Now he's completely ripped out the family network and nobody's watching TV or anything, just so that he can talk to us. What do you say, folks? How are you, Ty?
I'm all right, thank you. How are you? I'm tired, but that's boring me saying that. So
what else is new?
I'll just make... Exactly. So I'll make it. No, I'm full of life. I'm full of beans. Yay!
Hey, excellent.
So
you've been doing anything particularly exciting this week? I guess, deadlines abound and all of that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm trying to catch up on TV stuff because I spent so long doing midget stuff that it's that was kind of all encompassing. So that's all gone on hold just for a few days while I catch up on TV stuff.
Okay.
So it's all good.
Excellent. But, bought any new synths recently?
I told you, yes. So.
Excellent. Oh, do tell.
So, things I've ordered. So I've got on order. I've got the Lyra 8.
Oh yeah.
I've got the System 8. I've got the Korg ARP module.
You ruined. I thought for a minute we were heading towards a grease-like systematic, automatic, and we could have got into what's that? What's the song that they do? It's Grease Lightning. Grease Lightning. Never mind. Yeah. Synth Lightning. Off you go. Systematic, Lyra, and
the Korg thing, and a VPO3.
Okay.
I've just got a TR8. And finally decided that I've had a Sledge Black on approval, and I just bought that as well. And there's something else. Oh, and the Murmux has arrived, but that's a long story. But, yeah, so we'll talk about that.
Wow, so pretty busy. Well, mind you, I would like to add, this isn't since last week, because obviously that would be really excessive. Maybe a month or so.
It's about a month.
Yeah.
It's about a month, yeah.
And to be fair, for those of you people thinking, what on earth, Ty works incredibly hard doing stuff, so this is kind of like a release for you, and also very useful in your work, which, as you can see, is music composing, and just where things have to be just so, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, absolutely.
You should hire me to justify these purchases to your wife as well, because I make a pretty good case.
I am the luckiest soul on earth. She never questions a single thing. Not a single thing.
Excellent. Do you get them delivered to a separate address and sneak them in?
Oh yeah, completely. She doesn't know about them. That's why she doesn't question a single thing. She thinks I'm a plumber. So yeah.
Excellent. Anyway, Ty, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll also go to Mr. Gaz Williams, who we haven't seen for it feels like a long time, but I'm sure it's not. As always, with my thoughts at least. How are you, Gaz? Bass player, producer, music technologist, all those things.
Yeah, great. Yeah, had a great weekend. I did a brilliant gig in Edinburgh in the museum. In like the big room in the museum. I
saw some photos. It looked fantastic. Although 19 seconds of reverb.
Well, I think the way that they sort of got around that was by not having it, by trying to keep it as quiet as possible and it still being loud enough. I think that was sort of the only way to deal with it, really. but the audience really did sort of kind of cluster as close as possible. But it really nearly didn't happen either, because on the day we had like a tour bus overnight to get up there, and so everybody was a bit stinking coming off the bus. We all wanted a shower, so we booked into a hotel just to get showered, and the hotel was going, sorry, there's no water.
Oh my
God.
And
there was no water in all of Edinburgh City, because the main water supply had burst, and then I think loads of sediment had got into the water supply as well. So, and then we went for a meal with the organisers, and we were and literally they were on tenterhooks because it was
touch and go.
It was touch and go. They were going to have to cancel it because the water supply had all been contaminated. But yes,
you got there in the end.
They got it there in the end. But my mind was blown on Sunday night in Cafe Otto in London, when an ambition of mine was fulfilled, and I got to see Magma live. Yes,
the prog specialists.
Amazing. I mean, everybody listening, I command you to listen to all of Magma's back catalogue over the next week. There we go.
Would it take a week? It would take about a week, wouldn't it? All those gatefold, double, quadruple albums, concept albums.
Well, remember, Magma are the band, you talk about concept albums, but Magma are the concept band. All their songs were written, they're all set on this planet in the future when the humans had to leave the Earth because of environmental disasters and settle on this planet called Kobayan. And so all the Magma albums are written in this language called Kobayan.
Wow,
which is,
that is conceptual.
Yeah, and it's great because, I mean, that was like in 1969, 1970. And they have stuck to their guns through thick and thin. Yeah,
I imagine it's like Klingon, isn't it? Some people are fluent in it by now. So yeah.
Well, there is. I have found online like lexicon where you can kind of learn all the language, and fans write to them in this language, and it's. But I just think it's amazing, that you have an idea for a concept album and the record company are desperately trying to talk you out of it, but they've managed to sustain this across their entire career. That's pretty
impressive. They must have a pretty good salesman on board. Anyway, thank you. Thank you for joining us. I should also say hello to the chat room. Yes, that's working at least. This is the live chat room in our own IRC channel, in case you're wondering, sonicstate.com/live, where you can watch the YouTube stream, but with our chat room, or if you like, you can watch the YouTube live stream with the YouTube chat room. It's hard to monitor both, but I will try and sort of dip in every once in a while. So, post something. You might have to post it more than once for me to notice, but don't get cross because I'm a bit flustered. Anyway, we'll go now to our third guest, Mr. Charles Chicky Reeves, sublime.uk, sublime-uk.com. I do beg your pardon. Charles is front of house engineer, studio engineer. As you can see, synth collection. You've got some very moody lighting, or is it the time difference between here and London is now darker up there, or is it stormy?
No, I'm really into lighting. In fact, I have those almost all my lightings that Philips Living Color lighting, so I can change the colors, and
it's all the rage.
On who's in here.
Now tell me, do you have a particular color for a particular purpose?
Yeah, I do. I part of it's I got into that because of the whole circadian rhythm stuff. So I have like a morning color, I have a sunset color, just to keep myself sane. But I do find I like to mix in sunset, which is what it is now, that kind of orangey,
the golden hour.
Sort of. Yeah. That's
so you're perpetually in the golden hour.
Exactly.
Does it stop you from aging as well? Has it got other restorative properties?
Well, it does that, and also I have a picture of myself hanging up in the attic that's that's aging. So
yes, excellent.
Well, literary reference there.
Yes, Mr. Dorian Gray. I did get it. Just about got through my woolly head there. But anyway, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. We should probably crack on because there are things to see, people to see, things to do. Let's start with this one. This is a video by a chap called. I think it's YY Kwan, and it's a really good idea. 23 virtual pianos compared, some of them in the box, some of them in hardware. And literally there are, 23 of them. And he's a really good player. I mean, this is very cocktail bar music, but it's the sort of thing that you'd expect to have a grand pianist play. I don't know which the first one is because I can't actually get the webpage up. I did go through and listen to a few, but there's all sorts of stuff in there. Really good idea. I don't know whether he recorded this performance once and then revoiced it with all the pianos, or whether he's actually that good that he played it 23 times almost identically, considering how flowery it is. But actually, I thought there was a massive difference between lots of pianos. You might think, oh, what's the difference? But there are lots of difference to do with things like phase and where the fundamental of the notes were and stuff. I'm going to start with you, Ty, because I suspect we have talked about piano libraries and what have you, and I suspect you have several of these. Any in there that you were surprised by if you got the chance to try them all?
I think there were a few surprises. The biggest surprise was, for me, the hardware, the motifs came out better than I expected them to, because obviously in terms of sample memory, they're a lot smaller than a lot of the in the box ones. And they came out okay. They weren't the best, but you actually think they were actually good. They were better than I thought they were going to be. I think there's a misconception here. It's a bit like if you're I've said this so many times before, but I'm a pianist. That's what I am. I've been playing the piano since I can't remember, and so I've got in the house I've got a grand piano, and here I've got a V piano, and I've got so many. They're all 88 note controllers, and I'm really fortunate enough to have all the so dozens of piano libraries. And the great thing about it is that people need to realize that real pianos, all sound different. It's like guitars. It's like me I'm not that au fait with guitars, but I know for a fact that a Telecaster is going to sound different to a Strat, which is going to sound different to a Les Paul, which is going to sound different
years and different models and all that sort of stuff. Yeah,
absolutely. But people still have this thing that they think, unless they think a piano is a piano. So when you load up, GM preset number 1 and you get your piano, that's what a piano sounds like. Well, every single manufacturer of piano, every type of piano, even exactly the same pianos but different serial numbers or a different year, they all sound different. And the nice thing about having all these libraries shown off is a lot of the time, it's not actually the quality of the sample library. It's not to do with whether this sound is uses more RAM and has more velocity switching and has and more layers and all that kind of thing. What it's really proving the point is that the pianos they sampled in the first place all sound different. You can hear some of the libraries that are more, you can hear looping and you can hear the smaller libraries. But I think it's great to actually just get it out there that pianos sound different, and because people say to me all the time, why have you got so many piano sample libraries or so many pianos? It's because they do all sound different, and you can take one sound that will fit a track perfectly and then just change the sound of the piano or the kind of instrument or whatever, and it destroys the track. It doesn't work at all. So there were quite a few surprises, but there were also a load missed off. I
don't think that it wasn't exhaustive list, was it? No,
but I read lots of things going 23. Why on earth are there 23 piano libraries?
And there are so many more.
There are, hundreds.
Yeah, it was missing Art Vista's VGP, Virtual Grand Piano, which I know Dave Spears is a fan of.
That's a great library. It hasn't got the Hans Zimmer piano, the Spitfire piano. It hasn't got a lot of the 8DO pianos and the sound iron pianos, and there's so many missing. But I think as an idea, it's great. I think it's brilliant that people can sit and you find the one that you listen to and go, oh, I like the sound of that one.
Yeah,
So
I absolutely agree. It is really, and it was quite interesting. I mean, I went through and I just kind of I was doing it a bit like Tinder. I was just kind of going, yeah, no, yeah, oh yeah, and made note of that. Just kind of, I couldn't swipe.
Tinder, what's Tinder, Nick?
I don't know. I have heard it's somewhere where you can quickly make decisions about.
I've no idea.
Ty, it's a bit like Grindr.
Oh, okay, that's all right then. Now I know.
Yeah, nice. Excellent. Gaz, I don't know, do you have a plethora of pianos? I mean, there were some, what I noticed was quite a lot of differences in the kind of the phase of the piano. Some sounded very mono, some sounded very wide, some sounded very thick, some sounded very thin, some sounded clicky, whatever. Any particular standouts for you?
Well, I was interested to see how the keyscape compared to and that was what was that, a Yamaha C7, and there was another one, wasn't there? A propeller heads one of the same model. So I was interested, like, comparing those two just to see, and I thought they're much of a muchness in a way. I thought they both sounded really good. The one I always love, and it's the one that most people hate, is Piano Tech. You know, I just love Piano Tech.
That's the semi-modelled one, isn't it? That's got a light footprint, right?
Well, it's completely
it's tiny.
Completely modelled, right?
Yeah, completely modelled. Yeah, and I always enjoy that because I think it's.
Do you have a sneaking joy of the fact that you know it's so efficient? Every note you're going.
It's partly that. I think I think it's just the fact that it's all being generated in real time, and that you're not triggering discrete sample layers, and that it's not, you know, replaying something that happened somewhere else, but it's happening there and then. I don't know. There's something sort of almost like a spiritual dimension to it, which I quite like.
That's a fair point.
It's a bit like there is a lot to be said for the modelled stuff, because, as I said, I've got a V piano, and anyone that's played a V piano, there's something about it that I had this conversation with another composer when it first came out, is that when you play sampled pianos, compared to playing a real piano, you almost, when you play a long chord, as the sound is decaying, as it's dying away, it doesn't have that natural beating that a real piano will have if you're playing with samples. It doesn't have that natural beating, and the decay feels quite sterile. And so what, as a pianist, what you tend to do is when you're playing samples, you have a natural tendency to want to fill in that space, because as it's decaying, it doesn't feel it doesn't feel warm. It feels like you need to kind of fill in and do something. The great thing about the V piano with the modelling on it is the fact that it's one of the only instruments where if you play the chord, you get that natural beating, and it feels like a real instrument. And although sometimes, as the rest of the instrument, it doesn't feel the most natural sound, in terms of when you're playing very sparse stuff, you play stuff on the V piano in a way that you always have a lot more space, as you would on a real piano, compared to having samples, because of the beating of the decay.
That's a very valid point. Charles, Mr. Chicky Reeves, your feeling about are you a piano collector, virtual piano collector, or real piano collector even?
Both. Two pianos, a Steinway D, and then an old upright from the early 1900s. I use those quite a bit, but I tell you, because it's so much easier to use soft synths or soft bass piano, I'll use Ivory, I use Reason pianos, and I always seem to use the Abbey Road pianos from that are for, it's a propeller heads refill. I love the sound of that. The Mrs. Mills piano.
Mrs. Mills, cello and piano. Mrs. Mills is quite honky-tonk, isn't it?
It is. But, I just did a blues album, and in that blues album, that was the perfect piano for the whole album. And we had thought about using my upright for it, but you know what? That just sounded so much better. And you can also choose the mics and so forth. It's recorded, multi-channel, and you can just sort of fade things in. But going back to what you were talking about, how so many pianos sound different. Yeah, each piano does sound different in this collection, and the some of that comes from, obviously some of it's modeled and so forth, but the ones that are sample based pianos, that there are so many variables there, like how close you mic it, what kind of mics you use, and I think I told you I just did this thing with Al Schmidt down in France, and I was really surprised the way he mics a piano is really far away. He'll have a Gefell mic on the top and then a U47 on the bottom, and they're 2 feet away from the strings, but it sounds beautiful. But it's a completely unique sound. It doesn't sound like anything else.
I guess the room and the piano itself will make a massive difference in those instances.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was a couple of highlights in there. One thing I probably didn't go with. So I thought the Keyscape C7 did sound really good, actually. I know I'd been a little bit kind of prestige, thought it might be a bit, but it just felt very very real. And the other one, what was the other one? The props, the propellers Yamaha C7 really sounded to me like I was in the room with the piano. It had something about the ambience and the spacing, just felt like I was standing or even at the playing position of a piano, which I thought was pretty impressive. Sorry, Ty, you were coming in.
No, I was only going to say, has anyone got keyscapes?
No, I'm afraid not.
No.
Okay, keyscapes is actually something quite special, because I think when it got announced, I said that, initially I was quite disappointed with the concept of it, and until we heard the demos, and the demos looked great at the moment. So I got it, and I think it needs to be kind of accepted what a kind of step forward this is, really. Just in terms of piano sampling, because it's the first time, the nearest I've come to it so far is with some of the Spitfire, with the Hans Zimmer, with the Spitfire library, which is, in certain circumstances, you can almost believe is real. You really could. But with Keyscape, whatever they've done, I don't know how they've done it, but I tried it with, when it came on the day it arrived, I was there with not just the real piano, the C7, but also lots of the electric pianos and the TAC pianos and all that kind of thing. And it's the first time when I compared it to all my other electric piano libraries, all the others you thought, great, what great libraries, what great sample libraries, they sound fantastic. But you knew they were sample libraries. Whatever they've done with Keyscape, and I don't know how they've done it with the programming and the velocity switching and the, in the you would be, you couldn't tell it wasn't real on so many occasions. You're sitting there playing it, and if you close your eyes, it is the nearest thing you're going to have to actually playing that instrument and be completely convinced that it's real. And I don't know how they've done it.
Yeah.
I don't know how they've done it, and I don't know how they've done it and got it down into 77 gig, which at the time, it
seems a lot, but compared to it, yeah.
I mean, the Hans Zimmer piano is 200 gig for one piano, so I know, but they've got into all these keyboards into 77 gig. I don't know how they've done it, and it is an exceptional product. If you just want keyboards, it is amazing.
Okay, that's fair enough, because I believe I made a slightly disparaging comment about it sounding a bit clinical to me. And Eric did actually contact me afterwards and say, "What on earth are you talking about, man?"
That's what they sound like. No, but this is exactly what I'm saying. This is exactly what I'm saying, because that's how C7 sound. That's the thing. That's how a C7 sounds.
Right.
And it's, if you compare that to like a Bosendorf or a Steinway, they all sound completely different. So
yeah.
Anyway, there we go.
Any other highlights? I think there was a couple of other that stuck out for me. Actually, the RD700, the hardware didn't sound too bad as well. I thought that was pretty good because that was one of the few hardware pianos in the collection that, like the Motif was one, but that was a dedicated kind of piano, and I thought that sounded pretty good. And NI the Giant, I really liked. It just had it sounded like a piano on steroids, which I guess is what it is, which is that, isn't it? That massive piano that's kind of much bigger than it should be. It's like 9 foot. A 9 foot upright or something that goes under the floor.
I love that. Much bigger than it should be.
Anyway, a great resource, and one I thoroughly recommend, especially if you're thinking I need a piano. I mean, it's definitely not exhaustive, but it's got, what it does give you is kind of maybe what to listen for if you like certain things, and that's something that I thought was pretty cool. Dave Spears said he couldn't make it here this week, but he said he has another one vote for Keyscape. He said he'd lost his creative mojo a bit, and he fired up Keyscape, lost in the C7 piano for hours, including the emotional piano, and also Art Vista's VGP. Anyway, that was it. I thought I'd mention it. I guess, let's see, what else have we got? Oh yeah, here we go. Let's try this one. This is something, and now for something completely different. Very different.
Yes.
Very different as in, there it goes. This is called, I don't know how you pronounce it, Jussi emulator. Jussi. Yeah. Third time lucky. It's a very short video, this, but it's a I guess it's a modelled instrument, and it models human voices. Velocity to tone, ADSR control, so you get the and the pitch in and out of notes. A lovely demo. And sort of surreal sounding, not like spot on, but just really interesting sound, I thought. And it's available for iOS and VST, and I think, it's pretty cheap. And I just thought, that sounds interesting. I'm going to go to you, Charles, because you knew how to pronounce it, so I'm guessing you might have something to say on the subject. At least I'm hoping so.
Yeah.
My instincts are correct.
I love it. So I think it sounds amazing. I think it's one of those things. I don't know if I would use it as a solo instrument, but definitely like sort of building up pads of people, So I guess what Exhale's trying to do, or what Exhale's successfully doing, like whenever I track stuff like that, I'll track one track and then I go back and just do the same thing again, but with slight variation and so forth, until it just sounds like I have a huge group of people. And I think it's perfect for that sort of thing. I love this type of stuff. I love any kind of vocal processor. That's why, I mentioned before I love vocal synth, because you can do so many cool things.
Are you using it on iOS or VST?
VST.
And
VST.
How's the footprint? Because you say you go back and track and track and track. I mean, are you running multiple instances?
What was that?
I'm not sure. You just zoomed in suddenly. This is where you say something really important directly to the camera, right?
Yes. So, and now a message from our sponsor. No, what I do is I'll actually track it in audio wise.
Okay.
In fact, I do that with soft synths. I do that with everything. I commit to a sound really early on, track it in, I don't go back and fiddle with it later unless it just absolutely isn't working. So, but yeah, I'll track it in audio wise. So.
Yeah, but I agree. It's got some really nice. I haven't had a chance to download it. I think it's like $12.99 for the VST and $4.99 for the iOS. I mean, it's pretty cheap. I mean, in terms of value for money. Gaz, you look like a man who's just grabbed a copy of it and are holding it on your iPad. You're looking guilty.
Yeah, I've been meaning to get it. Because Clevgrand, they're Swedish developers.
That's right. Yeah. I would show the webpage at this point, but I'm afraid I can't.
I've got the Corv compressor, which Corv is Swedish for hot dog, and it's the one which it's got a very, very simple graphical interface. And it's a funny little compressor. It's got a sound about it. I really quite like it. So I was quite interested in this because they come at things from a slightly odd angle. Just looking at the app, though, there's not a lot to it in terms of you've got a character, which is like you're probably not going to be able to see this. Is that all just a whiteness?
It is kind of. If you held it closer, your auto thing, but yeah, that's it. It's just like a piece of paper.
And there's like a few XY pad controls. So there's a character, there's like a legato, like a formant, and then a throat control as well. And sort of so throat makes it more kind of growly.
More Tina Turner.
Oh, it's brilliant. It's brilliant.
I imagine that into a massive reverb about that long would probably sound really even better with all those harmonics.
It's great. It's great.
Excellent.
I've sold on it already.
Ty, I know you're sample library kind of dude, but in terms of vocal emulation, I mean, because there's been a lot of these things, and they tend to be on the sort of cheesy side. A lot of this stuff comes through from Japan, which has that kind of, because they're actually going for articulation and Vocaloid stuff, whereas this is something a bit more kind of unusual, right?
So I experimented with the Vocaloid stuff when it came out, and just lost patience with it, to be honest, and kind of walked away from that fairly quickly, just because the amount of programming that it actually took to get anything decent out of it was ridiculous. This is good. This is nice. I mean, I bought it when it kind of got announced, and as long as you don't expect it to sound like a real voice, it's a nice little synth. I mean, I got the VST version, and it's. I
guess probably subtlety and texture is probably, you get some interesting harmonics certainly in pads and that side of things, where I think its strengths probably lie, right?
Yeah, you can. I think as a creative solo instrument tool, I think it's great. I think it is good. I think if you really want it to sound like a human voice, you're going to be struggling. But I think, but no, I mean, it's a nice little plugin for the price. I mean, it's great. It's a nice little bargain, especially the iPad version. But I mean, the VST, even so, the VST, I think it was, as you say, $14 or something. Yeah, so it's great. Just talking about vocal libraries, there's one, if you really want a good one, recommendation, there's a girls' choir called Freya by Strezov sampling. I don't know if you're familiar with the Strezov. They do lots of big kind of libraries, but they've just brought out a girls' choir. No, it's not girls' choir, a women's choir. Called Freya, which is a completely new level of sampling in terms of the legato, and it's polyphonic legato, and it sounds amazing.
I might have
literally amazing.
Let's see, I might actually have some audio in this. Freya, let's see if it will play.
From Strezov sampling.
Hey guys, George from Strezov Sampling here, and I'm really excited and proud.
It's got that kind of
it's very ethereal.
That kind of Eastern European cluster sort of sound that they do so well. I guess it's been used a lot for that sort of stuff.
Absolutely, but it's just the realism of it is like a step up in terms of sampling. It's mainly because of the legato. It's beautiful.
Awesome. Awesome.
Little tip.
Right.
How is Strezov spelled, by the way?
How
is Strezov spelled?
Strezov.
Okay.
But if you just type Strezov as in STRESOV, it comes up. That came up. Synthopia, top of the blooming SEO once again there. But I will. Do check that out. That does sound quite interesting. It's probably time for a message from our sponsors. Usually is. Oh, I pressed the wrong button. That's my fault, isn't it? How often does that happen? Isotope Vocal Synth, of course. Regular sponsors of the show. We're looking at Vocal Synth here, which has got a number of modules for processing vocal sounds. I'm guessing you could run all sorts of things through it. It's not limited to vocal. Harmonization, unison, octaves, tracking. There's also a vocoder. Classic kind of vocoder sound. There's also a CompuVox, which is a bit more kind of like singing Siri. Talkbox without the drips. And of course, put them all together and you get a lot of processing in one plugin. Some real classic sounds. If you want to check it out, go to isotope.com/vocalsynth. And of course, we have got a competition this week. I usually show a screenshot at this point, but my screen capture thing didn't work when I had to reboot the system, so I do apologise. So I'll just have to say it enough times so that you can get it. We did run a competition last week, and we asked you to tweet the hashtag iconic vocals and vocal synth to Sonic State and Isotope Inc. And we got a winner this week. He tweeted, maybe not iconic vocals, but vocal synth may help a little. Sonic State and Isotope Inc. And that's from Matt Live SE. That's Matt Live SE. The Twitter handle, I guess, he's called Matt Live. But Matt Live SE, it looks like Matt Livesy. But if it's you, you'll know that it's you that's won. So do get in touch. We'll hook you up with Isotope and they'll give you your copy of Vocal Synth. So congratulations. And we also got a competition again this week to win another copy. This week we're looking for tweet the hashtags vocal effects, as in vocal with FX on the end of it, just the letter F and X, and the hashtag vocal synth as one word to @SonicState and @Isotope Inc. That's the hashtag vocal effects plus the hashtag vocal synth to @SonicState and @Isotope Inc. Once again, we thank you very much for the sponsorship of the show. Right, we did Jussi. We did. Oh yeah, this is kind of interesting. This is something that Charles, you mentioned.
For years, people have built microphones. Legends have been developed.
This is the Lewitt.
Variations of them have been introduced. But true innovation should always lead to new
LCT 640TS.
So let's focus on the future.
Which is a dual diaphragm
LCT 640 twin system, the true next generation studio microphone.
Twin output, but you can change the pattern after the effect. I won't play the whole thing. I'll tell you what, I've been watching a couple of fishing programs on the UK kind of specialist channels recently, and that really sounds like the voiceover you get from a kind of fishing program. So I'm not quite they got the tone right there with that, but it's quite unique. But a very interesting concept because it allows you to essentially kind of, I think, am I right in this, Chicky? You record both outputs, and then using their polarizer plugin, you can then modify the polarity and effectively change the response of the mic in real time by running their plugin running the mic channel through the plugin, which I'm guessing is a stereo channel. And that seems like a pretty interesting, and that's quite unique. I've not seen that before, but you can run it as a single output mic as well, right?
Yeah, you can. The demos I heard of it sound pretty amazing. Like the one where they stick it down inside of the pinball machine and record it in stereo. I guess I'm curious. I didn't see how you would connect it. So yes, it has an XLR and then it has a mini XLR. So
that goes to an XLR.
Yeah, you just stereo out. I think
XLR.
It's stereo, but I mean, you would have to make sure that you set it to 2 matched preamps.
Yeah,
I would assume, because otherwise, I mean, like exactly matched. Otherwise, the software means nothing. But
that's a good question.
But yeah, but it sounds like a great idea. I love the idea of that, and they're not that expensive. They're what I think $8 something.
Because I couldn't find a price for it. I mean, I saw some of their other mics were 700,
880
quid. I think I saw.
Yeah,
right, for essentially 2 mics in one, which I guess. You can't.
And a decent collection of accessories as well. So it comes with like the pop shield, like a magnetic click on. And I have to say, this is a very, very nice looking mic. I do a lot of recordings with mics, and I'm forever, it's that committing to a polar pattern thing. It's sort of, I'm always, wishing sometimes afterwards that I'd tried it, in Omni and getting a bit more room into the sound. And so I think it's a fascinating idea that is something that you can do after the fact. And they demonstrate it in a very cool way on the video. I don't know if I want to spoil the surprise, actually.
With the bus. Yeah, that's good.
So they use a little toy bus that drives around the record.
In the middle, yeah. I'll tell you one thing, it looks like also you can slide, but you don't just go this pattern, you can move between them. So I guess if you're an Omni, you could sort of bring it slightly in and get a bit
like
more...
like a C12, I guess, basically. Because, you can dial in the pattern and there are variations between the cardioid and Omni and figure of 8. So you can sort of dial in somewhere halfway in between. Which is really good because, generally speaking, aside from the room sound that you get, mics like your U87s and actually your nicer mics like 47s and so forth, recording in Omni sounds better. It's just sonically, it's just better. Unfortunately, you have to make sure you're in a really good space to record that because you'll be also picking up that space. So you can sort of. I like the idea of so you record something and then you can go through and you can experiment and see, okay, well, maybe a wide cardioid works really well for this particular vocalist, but you don't have to decide and have them sing something 20 times to try to figure it out. Because that's the thing I run into. Like, most of my sessions.
You don't want to lose the moment as well, do you, really? Yeah.
Yeah. And when I have a client sitting behind me, paying me, they don't want me to experiment. They want me to record, to get it right the first time. And so something like this, I can sort of, when they're not around, I can be experimenting with, I wonder which position would work best for them, I mean, granted, if you place the mic in a bad place, it's gonna not be great either way. But yeah, that sounds great. And the comparisons between this mic and the mic that it looks a lot like, which is the 414 or 414 as we say in the States, is that apparently this mic is slightly brighter. And in saying that, that makes me go, okay, is this a Chinese mic? Because they do have this tendency to be a bit hyped on the high end. And it's not something I particularly like. I like adding high end later. I don't like to have it added in by the mic. But if it's only slightly, I can live with that. Because, the 414 is a little bit of a dark mic. So, yeah. It could be. This could definitely be a workhorse mic,
Yeah, cool.
I'm intrigued, when you're recording a vocalist who's playing a guitar at the same time and you spend a lot of time trying to get the null and, if you do, I sometimes will use, figure 8 and try and get the null. the acoustic guitar part to kind of come into the null. And I'd just be really interested to see just what it does to the spill, just going through that degrees of, changing, just to see if you could reduce or enhance the spill. I think that's a really interesting aspect of it as well, because that is something that I'm forever struggling with, trying to get that thing, the two mic situation. So I think that would be a really cool use for it as well.
Yeah. If its back rejection is fantastic, then on each capsule, if the back rejection is great, that would be amazing. This truly would be a game changer mic.
There's a word you don't hear very often.
I don't want to speak in hyperbole, but I know from all the recording work I do and all the live work I do, something like that would be amazing. It would really be amazing. You could just think about because I tend to like, not too much. It depends on the act, but I like to sometimes stick a condenser mic on the top of a snare. So if you stuck that in, you're recording both capsules. So you got one capsule aiming directly at the snare, one capsule aiming directly at the hi-hat above it.
Hi-hat,
Yeah, so you got one mic getting both. How fantastic is that? It's like less cabling. Great.
That's pretty good. I don't know what its maximum SPL is and stuff like that, but that's probably worth it.
It's 140 something.
Plenty.
It's really high.
Ty, does this appeal to you? I'm guessing most of the time you're recording maybe single instruments, single voices in your facility if you're doing recording there, right?
Yeah, I am. But even so, I mean, as a concept, as an idea, this is, it looks great. I mean, I might check it out simply because my main mic in the studio is a bottle and with all the different capsules. And so when I'm trying to get the right, kind of the right sound and whatever, I spend forever just in and out, changing capsules around, changing, kind of the environment, changing everything. If I can start thinking about that, more of that after the event, that's going to make my life a lot easier. Yeah. And if it does sound, like a kind of 414 but slightly brighter, I mean, I'm not a big 414 fan for exactly that reason. I always want it a bit brighter, so it sounds kind of perfect from that point of view. And I think anything that can, I mean, there's this big thing with people saying you shouldn't be putting off the decision making until after the event, and in a lot of ways, you're right. I mean, there's no point recording 27 guitars tracks when you're only going to get down to 2. Make the decisions early on. But when it comes to things like this, I think the more options you have after the event,
because that's the thing you can't chat. And also, if you're paying by the hour, time is money. Time is money.
I think
there is another nice feature in it that it's got a kind of an LED hold for if the mic is clipped at all. So it'll flash red if it's kind of clipping, but if you don't see that flash, you go and you long press on the button on it, and then it'll light up if that it clipped. So I think that's really cool.
That's handy because you can see from a distance. Yeah, that's a really neat idea. Then you'd have to do that's a cool idea. Then you'd have to get your so it's a Lewitt dynamic. They're an Austrian company by the looks of things. I think it was Austrian.
It's designed in Austria, probably I think a Chinese manufacturing though.
Okay.
But it's designed in Austria.
Excellent, Charles. You've gone a bit crushed. You might need to it's probably just a bit of bandwidth hogging somewhere else in the building, I'd imagine. So, right, what else have we got? How times have moved. This is actually really tricky because I was This is the first recording of computer-generated music restored. This is by Alan Turing. It was done in 1951 at the Canterbury in the UK at a university there, and that they found, going through the archives, this acetate of this thing because he was a very influential mathematician. Cracked the code for the Enigma. Enigma code, but also went on, and there's been lots of films made about him because he was also, a big historic figure, also one of the first kind of very well-known gay men, I guess. Am I right in that, with the film where he got really badly, he got his knighthood kind of, he got all his honours given to him and then taken away. It was awful. He was treated appallingly. But they found this recording of the first ever computer music, and I'll see if I can play it. So first up we get God Save the Queen. Then there's a bit of... It's been restored afterwards. And there's...
Machine resented it. Alright, hang on again. Machine's not enjoying this.
I really like the fact that the team are in the background there.
I should lift Jim, I think.
There's more of it. I guess that was an abort. And various other, very sort of simplistic tunes. But part of it's, considering how amazing that would have been at the time. Remember 1951. And also, it took a computer the size of a room to do that. And it's a real kind of like, wait a minute, and what have we just been? We've just been looking at the iPhone app that'll emulate the human voice, based on something the size of a cigarette packet. But that's kind of, we sort of forget how important these trailbreakers were at the time. And I didn't realise, I don't know if you did, Ty, that Alan Turing had been working on computer music at all. It was a complete news to me.
No, I didn't at all, to be fair. No, I think you're right, though. I think 1951, so that's 60-odd years ago. And, you try and think of any other period in music history where, in the difference between that and 60 years later, where we are, in the bigger scheme of things, 60 years is absolutely nothing. And, it's just incredible to hear. I think I've said again several times before, I'm really into 1950s and 60s avant-garde computer music and music concrete and synth, that's my bag, and I really love all that kind of stuff. So I'm kind of aware of the very basic techniques, but no, I didn't have a clue about him being involved in it at all.
No,
but but as you said, it sounds awful it sounds awful to us now because of what we're used to, but just think what it must have sounded like then, having a computer do that. It's mind-blowing to think, how they perceived it.
Yeah, it's nice that it wasn't too heavily quantized as well, which is it was quite off-grid. So good on you. I know it is interesting when you sort of suddenly take a stop and look, this whole kind of march of technology, and that again, it must have been very exciting times for them doing that. But it's just surprising that it's only just come to light.
Yeah, and just all the background, the lady with the very, very English accent in the background. It's really good fun, isn't it? Just to listen to that recording, just to hear the excitement. I guess there must have just been Mike in the room. Do we know? Do any photographs exist?
I was looking, but I couldn't find anything in there at all, and I couldn't show you now anyway, but because of the way that the system is set up. But yeah, no, I couldn't find anything. I think it was, when they found the acetate, they tried to play it and they thought it was just completely knackered and there's no way. But obviously it's been processed. It sounds like it might have been a restorative thing, maybe RX or some other things, because you could imagine with something that simple and straightforward, a lot of the fixing could have, the spectral fixing and all that could have worked. It did have a cello-like quality to it, I suppose, didn't it? It wasn't quite as basic as perhaps other things, but when you consider how beautiful some of the early electronic music instruments sounded at the time, I was a bit disappointed. I was expecting something, but it's more the fact that it could do this, because presumably that waveform was created in some form of code and then output somehow by the computer, which is all the more remarkable considering.
But I think that's what we're hearing, though. Are we hearing it are we hearing it coming out of a speaker and then a microphone that's picking up the voice?
That must be. It absolutely must be. Yeah.
They hadn't invented sound cards back then. Sound cards. Sound Blaster didn't exist.
There wasn't a USB driver for that particular computer back in the 1950s.
But that's a bit of a shame in a way, because we can't hear really what it sounded like. So but even still, it's an incredible historic record.
Yeah, absolutely. And Charles, those sort of things are, sometimes, when you hear them, they really are. It's a shame that the audio couldn't be restored to, or wasn't probably recorded at that high resolution anyway, but it would have been nice to hear that.
Yeah, that would have been nice. Yeah, I like the sound that was coming over the microphone. I thought that was a really interesting tone. It sounded very boxy, which I liked. And it reminds me, I built for Christmas, someone gave me this synth that you build yourself, and it sounded pretty much like that. You couldn't alter the sound too much, but it's a lot of fun to play, and I'll stick it on a track somewhere, do a little solo with it. So we'll see.
Absolutely. I will. Right. Let's. It might be worth, Charles. I don't know. Let's see. We probably. This was another thing. I was going to again show a webpage. This was a post that I found on Reddit, which was a chap who said he'd found this JX3P in a local store, and he bought it, and then had this sort of buyer's remorse. But there's an angle. It's a chap called. What was he called? He's called Funtize, I think. This is on Reddit Synthesizers, which is a great group for all sorts of reasons. It's worth checking out there. I think I did an AMA a couple of years ago on that, actually, and a lot of our stuff shows up there, so it's a really good group. It's well worth subscribing to. And his whole thing was, I bought it. It sounds great, but I'm really worried. It's like 33-year-old piece of technology. Maybe I should get rid of it because it might not last. And I didn't really, that's not usually the way around you think of it, unless perhaps you have a big collection and you realise exactly how much this stuff costs to keep going. I'll start with you, Ty. I mean, a lot of your stuff is more modern, isn't it? I mean, your 55 is not an original 55, it's a rebuild. So I don't know whether you have the same kind of issues or whether you avoid vintage stuff for those very reasons, the fact that it is difficult to maintain.
Well, I've been there. That's the thing. I've been there where I had what was kind of more vintage stuff, and I got fed up with the fact of it spending more time being repaired or being away, and nothing major in terms of, I had nothing. When I had the bigger stuff, it wasn't vintage, and then I kind of got rid of all that, went complete digital, bought bits of vintage. It just became a pain in the arse, and so that's why I kind of go more for the more top end of the more modern stuff. And because a lot of people say, well, why are you spending, like for example the modal stuff, why are you spending that kind of money on a modern polysynth? Why not buy a whatever? And these are all the reasons. I mean, last year I almost, because I mean I've made it clear that the only synth I really would love, that I don't have, is a CS80. And last year I almost bought one. I was in the position to buy one and almost did. And the only reason that I didn't was because of, space-wise we'll forget that one, but it was reliability. And as Dave well knows, because I went down to see Dave's CS, and when it goes wrong, moving those things, it's not fun. And they have to keep going back, and the moment you move them, it will go out of tune, or a voice card will slip out, or something will, they need to be looked after. It's like a vintage car. They need to be looked after. And so I didn't buy the CS80. And one day, hopefully I will, but that's the only synth. Other than that, there's nothing out there that really, really makes me want to have, because of the looking after.
Yeah,
Simple
I know.
as that,
A lot.
really.
I mean, again, Dave Spears is constantly, that when we talk to him in Synth Cave, there's often, this ever-changing topography of synths, because the ones that they make.
When was the last time we looked at, when Dave was on, that we looked at Dave's setup and everything was in and everything was working?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
That's a fair point.
And everyone I know with a big collection of vintage synths, that's how it is. I can't, there's other people I know where I don't think at any one point everything is working. There'll always be something that is down on that one, or there's a voice card that's not on that one. And I've been through that, and that's why I'm just like, no, I don't want to, I don't want any other part of it. Every now and again, I'll kind of jump, but even then, I mean, I bought the Andromeda knowing that, they're not the most reliable, and that's not really vintage, but it's still however many years old. So it's still on that point of, every time I switch it on, I'm not sure whether all the voices will, but it's like the only thing that I've really got that's like that now is my Hartman, the Neuron.
Right.
Where, kind of the world knows that every time you switch a Neuron on, you have to cross your fingers and your legs, and just hope that it will boot up this time. Because they just, drop like flies and you can't get them repaired and everything. But
I can't imagine that people actually toured these things. Can you imagine going on tour with a CS8? I mean, I know. Charles, I mean, you've done a lot of front of house stuff. I mean, do you ever get that? You go to the gig, or you go to pre-production rehearsals, and they're there with piece of equipment, and you're just wincing, thinking, "Oh, that's not going to turn out well. Maybe I can talk them into not taking that on the road."
Well, by touring with OMG, those guys, they tour with Phantoms because they've got everything sampled into the Phantom. It's just easier. The problem is Phantom takes some boot up. But we had we did a tour with John Fox a few years back, and so it was him with Hannah Peel, who's an amazing keyboard player and performer. The band was great, but she's up there with an MS-20, an original MS-20, and a few other pieces of kit. And then we also toured. Well, the Vinyl Electrodes guys.
Yeah.
So we were with them. It's like you look at their on-stage rig. There's just cables everywhere, and like everything is. It's just you just go at any moment. One of these things is not going to work. I heard Mark say, "Yeah, that's the way it goes." But yeah, I love the sound of the original pieces, but I would never take that stuff live. These keyboards I have here. I run into the same issue with them. They like my Juno 106. I've had to have all the voice chips replaced on it. My JD800. I've had to have. It's digital, and I still had to have that thing completely rebuilt. I've got a CZ 5000 and 1000. They're just basically inoperable now because of bad. No, it's just going bad. So I use virtual CV instead.
Yeah.
But it's all that stuff does age, and it doesn't age well. It's very tricky. So
yeah,
I like new stuff.
I guess that's the thing with guitars, though, and I suppose vintage amps definitely have a thing, don't they? I mean, I remember there was a bass player we used to get used to come in to do golf rap sessions, and he'd bring in one of those flip top Ampegs, the ones that come
P15.
Yeah, and it was broken, but it was broken in a really brilliant way that made it sound amazing. So you would bring it along. He'd bring two. He'd bring one that worked, and this other one that just did what it did. That was a very unique kind of fuzz tone, slightly broken sound. I mean, you don't get quite the same thing with guitars because you can always get the wiring redone and the pickups but I guess it's similar amount of hassle.
Yeah, I mean, I often see Fender Rhodes out and about. Hohner clavinets. Whirlies less often because whirlies are very, very delicate. But those things are you can kind of you can fix them on the road, really.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So, put a blob of solder on the tine and it'll get back in tune or whatever. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about a few years ago. I had a Roland Gaia, which is a much hated synth by lots of you out there, but I think it's a really decent synth for what it is. And that thing, we toured a lot with it, and I remember one time playing on a boat, and it lurched, and the synth went flying off the stand and off the stage and landed controls down on the dance floor. And you know what? Nothing was broken off it. Nothing. It was all, and it all worked perfectly. And I was thinking, cool, because it's almost like a bit like got a toy-like quality to it. But
yeah, but
man,
well, I guess it hasn't got that much mass as well, which means it probably saved itself.
Yeah, that's a good point. But I mean, pretty much anything else. That
would have been it.
Taking that sort of dive, would be just smashed to bits. So.
Sounds like an exciting gig, Gaz. Sounds like if the boat was moving that much, Jesus, was that like capsized territory?
God, it was quite a big boat, but So I think it is. I think it is a valid point, and also it is a size thing as well, isn't it? Everybody moaning about like the boutique size, whatever, but.
Yeah, that brings a really interesting. If I might just come in there, we had Alex Theakston down from Source yesterday to shoot some videos of something very exciting, but also just some of the Eventide pedals and putting set. And he brought a Model D reissue, and we got it out of the box, and it just looks absolutely massive. I mean, it's just enormous, the amount of space there is between all the knobs, and you're just thinking, wow, that's not really a Moog Mini, it's like a Moog Maxi. It's so big and so sort of huge. It seemed because it was brand new, you didn't immediately kind of think, oh, it's a mini Moog. It's like, that's a brand new synthesizer that's huge and weighs an absolute ton. It sounded fantastic, and is a perfect replica and all those things, but it just seemed so enormous, so almost wasteful, and I was thinking about it at the time. It's like, well, they built that, and obviously when they designed it, I know it's a classic and everything, but actually They weren't thinking about if we sell a lot of these, it's going to be really expensive to ship them and the size of storage and all. It's just none of those considerations. But it was just quite an interesting thing. Sorry, Ty, you were coming in there.
No, I was only going to say, I think the other difference is with vintage. I think there's two ways of looking at it. I think if you're a collector, there are plenty of collectors out there and people who collect vintage synths, and that's fine. I think if you're running it if you're using them as instruments, in other words, you need to be able to switch it on every morning and it needs to work and it needs to function because you're going to use it.
Or
for
live,
work,
or live.
Or live, absolutely. I think they're two different things. And I think, there's someone I know who's more of a collector. He doesn't do live stuff. He doesn't have any pressure. If something breaks down for him, it's just, oh, well, I'll get it repaired next month kind of thing. It's no big deal. And I think in those terms, I can understand the appeal of that. I can understand, I keep having to not justify, because I don't have to justify anything, but, I keep having to say to people, I don't collect stuff. I know I buy lots of stuff, but I don't collect it. I buy lots of instruments that I use, kind of for work, and that's what they are. And so that's why the vintage stuff is a bit of a liability for me, because I made that mistake years ago where I was using lots of vintage stuff on day-to-day tracks, and tracks would get shaped depending on what was working that particular morning, and that's not good. Believe me, that's not a good situation to be in.
Keep you on your toes, though, I suppose.
Well, yeah, that's one way of looking at it. But
you don't really need that, do you? You don't need any extra
but if you're collecting, I can understand why people have the urge to collect all this vintage stuff, because that's let's be honest about this. The difference is a lot of synths from the 70s and from the 70s, really, they're beautiful bits of kit or furniture, exactly like you're on about with the Model D. Size apart, you look at it and it's a beautiful piece of, I don't say furniture because that's an awful thing to say, but it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful bit of kit, and kind of there's not that much that's coming out now that you can honestly say is a beautiful bit of kit. There's the System 55 doesn't count because that's just a reissue. The Schmidt is the the exception, but there's not many bits of gear that are really genuinely just to behold is a beautiful thing.
Design classics.
Absolutely.
We probably should wrap up quite soon, but you were going to tell us about the Dreadbox Murmux, because we're all excited to hear, because we all think it must sound fantastic. So do tell.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I will. But there has to be a bit of because I said I wasn't going to. But okay, basically,
if you're not comfortable,
and it arrived. Okay, it arrived. There was a slight problem with it, and so after one day, it had to go back. The first thing I have to say is the Dreadbox after service is exemplary. It is absolutely fantastic. We know they're a small company. And I was emailing and dealing directly with, kind of Yanni, and it was amazing. Okay, so it's not with me right now.
Oh, so close.
When it comes back, I'll show you. But the main thing is, I did have one day with it, and apart from this little fault, which is an easy fault to remedy, the sound of it is amazing. I mean, absolutely incredible. I had it up against the System 55, and it's different to the 55, but there's a lot of that character of having a lot of balls and a lot of rawness and a lot of there's the unpredictability of it. It's a bit like, imagine the Erebus. We wanted it to be the Erebus on steroids, basically. That's what we wanted, and it is that Ansem. It's not just a glorified Erebus. It's
isn't that though a beautiful object?
But the Erebus.
No, the
Murmux. No, yeah, it is. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it is. The build quality is beautiful. It really is. It really is lovely. It's the first thing that basically Anna, my other half, turned around and forever and went, "Oh, that's nice." Now I can't remember the last time she did that. But as I was packing it away for it to go back, she went, "Oh, that looks nice." Mainly because it's kind of black tweed it's very desirable. It's really desirable.
You feel the same way about the sledge, do you?
All the chicks dig the sledge. Yeah. If you want to get some action, get yourself a yellow sledge. I tell you, they'll be all over you.
Look, I've got my black one behind me.
Oh yeah.
And you know the scare note once you go black.
The black one is. Yeah.
Wow.
What about my console? My console's like, it's got wood. It's really lovely. It's nice.
There are way too many euphemisms going on here. I think I might have to step in as chair of this organisation or lack of organisation and perhaps bring things to a close. Thank you very much. I can't wait to hear it, and I hope you get it back very soon because yes, excellent.
They're going to turn it around incredibly quickly, and it's not their fault. It was just one of those things, but it's a beautiful bit of kit. The moment it's back and I come on, I'll show you it. But yes, it's something quite special.
Excellent. Can't wait. Okay, well, that's it for this week. I just want to say before we go, I should just mention the iZotope competition again. If you want to win a copy of iZotope's vocal synth, what you have to do is tweet the following. You tweet the hashtag vocal effects, that's F and X at the end of vocal effects, and the hashtag vocal synth as one word as well, to @SonicState and @iZotope Inc. That's vocal effects and the hashtag vocal synth to Sonic State and @iZotope Inc. Then you will be entered for the competition. We do appreciate their sponsorship, and thank you very much to them. And we'll just say goodbye to everybody. Thank you very much, Charles. We're not going to see you for a while. You're off to do work, presumably.
Yeah, I've got to work for a bit. I've got a big session that's coming in for a while, but I will endeavor to get back as quickly as possible. So
thank you very much. Looking forward to it. And, of course, Mr. Gaz Williams over there in Bristol. See you soon. In fact, we'll be publishing the... what is it that we're publishing soon? The Lindstrument. That's right. I knew I'd remember somehow. What was that on your head? You were looking...
The Little Waves NX head tracker.
Oh! Have you been playing... Have you had fun with it?
Yes. Just it's early days.
Yeah, that sounds convincing.
It is quite funny that the sound is moving when you move your head. Not at the moment, I should add. It's because you have to strap it across your mix bus. But it definitely it's intriguing. I'll have to come back to you on this one because it's. I'm gonna have to see how the mixes translate. Really, that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that it's just gonna. Because I love working at night with headphones, so I'm hoping that it's going to mean that I can, do a lot more mixing that works through speakers,
Yeah. Well, good luck with that. Well, thank you very much, Gaz Williams. And finally, we'll say thank you very much to Ty Unwin, and a big respect to your family for letting you disrupt the network so that you can join us. Very much appreciated.
It's fine. It's always good to be on.
Okay, well, like I say, that's it for this week. I was going to finish with it because I've got this. I was going to do it at the beginning of the show, so I might just play out with a bit of this just because I can.
Right.
Which is the I've got basically the Pittsburgh SV1 here, Lifeforms SV1, which I've done a review on. I'm going to do another video, which is just a few more sounds. But I found this. I made this patch, which has got an oscillator tuned to A. I'll try and tune it, obviously, in a lot of reverb. Try and get it in tune. With a sub-octave. And the A is fixed. And I'm using the CV to play the top oscillator. And in a Mr. Robot style. And it sounds lovely.
Although it's actually A flat.
Okay, Mr. Perfect Pitch. What, against you? Right.
Yeah,
it doesn't have a tune.
It's A flat.
I've got a bit of pulse width modulation on one of the waves. And I've got a bit of sample and hold. And the other thing that's really cool about this, I figured out, because I've got there's a freeze reverb in the XR18. So I've written, you can send program changes to the XR18 where you switch the freeze on, off, and it does, when you change patches on it doesn't reload the effects. So I've now got that frozen reverb. So if I turn the synth down, that's just that into the reverb frozen. And another patch that changed the send, so I'm not adding to the frozen reverb.
Cool.
then if I take the frozen reverb off, it dies away naturally.
Ah, that's cool.
Nice.
So that's one way.
Excellent.
So if you want to build up drones and you're worried about it, you just need to save the patches and then record. And that's just sending program changes. There's no editor involved in that. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching. See you next time.